Brands after the pandemic. Many people now think, does the pandemic affect a brand? And the question now is, who could advise me if a brand has a brand damage, needs to change, or needs to adapt to maybe the so-called new normal? And we have an expert here with us today. Hello and welcome, Lesley Everett.
Hi, Niels. Thanks for having me here today.
Thank you very much for taking the time, live from California. So when we now talk about branding, many people say we had a successful brand before the pandemic. So now we work from home. So now the pandemic slowly comes to an end. So we just keep on doing what we did before. Do you think that the pandemic we had and the global financial crisis coming with it, the global economical crisis we had with it, did that have an impact on branding?
It did, because what we need to do is to swivel and say, what do we need to focus on now, and what does branding really mean? More so than ever. And as you know, my take has always been that branding is about the people within the organization, how they interact internally and externally, and how they make customers and clients and guests feel. That is even more so right now, and that's even more prevalent because of the pandemic and remote working. And I think the employers and leaders today need to be so mindful of what is going to make their employees feel valued and respected, and be aware of their well-being more so than ever before. And that is so important from a brand perspective, from an employer brand perspective. People need different things to what they've had before in employment. And we've got to be so aware. Companies have got to be very switched on in what's needed now and not carry on as they did before.
When I prepared for this interview, some leaders told me that they are in a bit of a dilemma. On the one hand, they know many people now prefer to either work from home or have a hybrid model. On the other on the other side, leaders are very much worried that when you work from home, you lose contact to the brand, you lose contact to either the organization or corporation or company you work for. So you suddenly are just someone at home working for someone who pays you. So they are very much afraid of people losing the feeling for the brand they are working for. Do you think this is a risk? And if so, how can leaders overcome that?
Yeah, it is a risk, but let's face it, hybrid working is going to be here to stay. Home working is here to stay. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And so we can't ignore it. We can't just say, oh, well, it's just going to have to be what it is. Absolutely not. We've got to really be thinking about what employees need to feel included, to feel like they are part of the bigger picture, to feel like they're respected as part of the overall strategy of the business, and what do they need to be productive and feel part of it. A lot of my work has been working within employees, leaders, managers, even senior leadership teams, in how do you still feel connected to the brand of the company when you're working from home, and how do you retain your visibility and profile, or how do you build your visibility and profile? These are all things that when we're in the workplace we need, and that's been so tough during the remote working. So we have to find a way to make that as effective as possible, but that's looking at it from a completely different angle. What do people need right now? And one of the things that came out recently, there was a McKinsey report just a couple of weeks ago, that shows that 68% of companies have not communicated a clear vision for returning to work or a hybrid model. And that's just, and it also shows on the converse side that the ones that do have a clear vision communicated to their employees are 5 times more productive. Now, however that's managed, the report has it in there, but it's basically about clarity and confidence in the leadership. And we have to be so mindful of what our employees need right now. And it is that clarity and confidence in the leadership of the business. So we have to find a way for people to feel included, to be part of the bigger picture, to be respected for what they do, and have a strategy that really has that at the center of it. Otherwise, we're going to lose people. We're not going to be able to bring new talent in easily. It's something that has to be a very clear strategy. And it worries me when there's a number of that percentage of companies that haven't communicated that well, which means they don't have one, basically, I would say.
Absolutely. I read the McKinsey report, and it's the report, I think, with the headline, leaders need to get real about hybrid. I think that was the headline. And I read that report. Of course, now we need to derive one question from that. Let's say people see that there's a lack of vision, there's maybe a lack of communication. And then people tell me that they say, well, we see the issue, but, and then two problems arise. Either board level, they say, we don't see the issue, full stop, moving on. Or that is the other option. They say, we see the option, but after the pandemic, because we had financial losses, we don't have a budget to care about it right now. What would you say about these two issues? Either the board not caring, not seeing the issue, or the board saying we do care, but we don't have money to spend for it?
I think, I would say that you're on very dangerous ground if you're saying you don't have the budget to spend on it, because that is not putting your money where you need to right now. If you're going to lose all your best employees because they're not feel inclusive and they don't feel like they're part of a bigger picture and respected because they're home working and they're not part of the team, we've got new employees in that position who haven't even met the team yet, that's very dangerous. You're going to lose people, and studies will show that people will leave. And I've seen this many times firsthand myself, where people have just got to come back to work after, as we sort of come through the pandemic, and they're just reevaluating their lives. Do I really want to be in this job anymore? Is this what what really drives me? And if they are not feeling respected, they're going to leave. And we all know the cost of getting new talent on board. So if you're not investing in it, you're going to lose your best people. You may not be able to attract new people. And actually, it's not always about the money. I think is that the companies need to reevaluate what their benefits package is for their employees, because it's not all about money. It really isn't. There's so many more things that people want now. Well-being and being respected and invested in is one key area. So, if you do it right and you have a strategy, it may not even cost anymore, but reevaluate your benefits as to what people need right now, because they need different motivation. There are different things that they've always had in the past that have kept them. So from an employer brand point of view, really, that's got to be addressed. Otherwise, I think companies that don't do that and have not invested in it are really going to suffer and disappear. Possibly.
Absolutely, fully agree. When we talk about communicating the vision, of course, the usual way how to communicate either large programs, product launches, or the new vision value statements, the usual way was having a large scale event. You all get them together. And the problem is, at the moment, this is still not really an option, especially when we look at corporate liability. It is sensible to say that we won't bring thousands of people together right now. So how do I communicate effectively? Because just sending out an email to everybody is clearly not the way that works too well. So how do I reach out to people in a time where the usual convention event approach is not a viable option?
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge, of course, because live events obviously do have major benefits for people to connect and feel connected and part of it. You can't do it through just social media or emails, it has to be done in an interactive way. And that's why I think the last year we've worked so hard, or probably 18 months now, worked so hard in looking at how do we immerse employees in the company brand and set of values, and give it to them in a way that really addresses a what's in it for me factor. So this is really going to help to develop me in my career, progress my career faster, but at the same time, I'm engaged in what the company are doing, what their mission is, what their value is, what their values are, and feel part of that overall strategy. And it has to be, in my view, because we see the results from it, has to be an interactive workshop type session, not just a webinar, not just a set of pre-recorded videos.
Not the classical CEO sends a video to anyone thing, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, okay, that helps, but it's not on its, it has to be a sort of blended approach. Yes, a message from the CEO is helpful, from leaders of the company, but we need to immerse people into what part do I play in the overall vision and mission and value set of this organization in a way that I can internalize and interpret for myself and feel that it has a benefit for me personally. That's what I feel is needed. That's what engages people with that. And also, with leaders, and this is a lot of the work I've been doing in the last, for years, but particularly from a coaching perspective in the last 18 months, is I have this, I've been talking about it again for a number of years. I have this theory that it seems to be playing out, and I call it a new wave of branding. And that is, if you can develop your leaders to have a strong brand in their own right, as a personal brand, about who they are, their expertise, what their characteristics, their experiences, rather than just being the HR director or CFO of XYZ company. They have their own brand. They then project that brand externally much more powerfully. They'll get exposure in the media, on panels, being interviewed on certain things. And that is a way that we can really enhance our brand. And and what's been proven from my point of view in my work is that managers reporting into these leaders respect them more. They want to see them out there exposed in the media. They want to have somebody who has a strong presence. And this all helps to have a sense of belonging. It has to filter down to the teams. But, let's develop our leaders to be much more visible, transparent, have a profile, and develop some personality in the business that trickles through to everybody. So you've got to immerse them in that personality part of the business.
Excellent. I think these are perfect final words and great advice for organizations who are now thinking of what should we do about branding. Is it okay when I put your contact data in the show notes of this podcast? Is that okay?
Of course. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to put Lesley's contact data in the show notes of this podcast. And at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing for me left to say. Lesley, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Niels.